In Clearwater Crossing, the auctioneer was halfway through selling a milk cow when a young woman's voice cut through the snow. "Don't waste your money on the Jersey." Every man in the yard turned. The cow stood in the pen with frost on her lashes, broad-backed and useful. Exactly the sort of animal Elias Rowe had ridden 30 miles to buy. But the voice had not come from the pen. It came from the auction platform. A Chinese immigrant woman stood there in a torn brown dress, with no coat, no bonnet, and feet wrapped in strips of flour sack instead of shoes. She was small enough that the wind seemed to shove her sideways, but she held herself straight. The broker beside her grabbed her arm. She pulled free. Then she looked straight at Elias, the only man in the crowd who had not laughed. "Buy my paper instead," she said. "A cow gives milk. I know how to keep a house alive." The yard went quiet in a way Elias had not heard since the day they lowered his wife into frozen ground. The auctioneer blinked, then forced a grin. "Now, gentlemen, what we have here is a lawful labor contract. Kitchen work, laundry work, domestic service, debt to be assumed by purchaser." The men muttered. Not one of them wanted a contract that came with trouble. Elias did not want it either. He wanted the Jersey cow. A cow was simple. Feed in, milk out. Calf in the spring if the season was kind. Butter if his son's appetite returned. Something a man could add, count, and understand. This woman was not simple. She was an argument with legs, a risk with frozen feet, and Elias Rowe had spent 2 years cutting risks out of his life, until all that remained was the ranch, the boy, and the daily work of not remembering too much. The auctioneer started the bid low. No hand went up. The broker, a clean-coated man named Felix Pritchard, smiled too hard and whispered something sharp into the woman's ear. She did not look at him. She looked at Elias. "You have a child," she said. A few heads turned toward Elias's wagon, where a pair of small mittens sat beside the feed sacks. "You came for milk," she continued. "That means somebody in your house needs strength." Elias felt that land in his chest. His son Jonah was 8 years old, thin as a fence slat since the winter fever that had taken his mother. Some mornings he ate. Most mornings he only pushed food around the plate. The Jersey cow stamped in the pen. Useful, sensible, necessary. The woman on the platform took one breath, shallow and controlled. "I can mend," she said. "I can cook. I know fever plants. I can work." Then the wind dragged her words across the yard. "Please don't let him take me back." Pritchard's smile vanished. Elias looked at the cow, then at the woman's feet, then at the little mittens in his wagon. The arithmetic of survival changed shape. He lifted one gloved finger. The gavel fell so hard the cow jerked in her pen. And by the time the next bid opened on the Jersey, Elias Rowe no longer had enough money left to buy her. The ride home took the rest of the afternoon. The woman said her name was Lian. Just that. No family name offered, no story attached. Elias wrapped her in a horse blanket and let her sit beside him on the wagon bench. She did not complain. She did not ask where they were going. She kept both hands folded in her lap with the same hard stillness she had used on the platform. Snow moved over the trail in white snakes. The mountains ahead were already disappearing. Elias kept his eyes on the horses. "You understand," he said at last. "I bought the contract, not you." Lian turned slightly, as if measuring whether the sentence was true. "What happens to the paper happens to me," she said. Her English was careful, clean, and accented. Elias had no answer for that. The Rowe place sat in a narrow basin west of the creek. One cabin, one barn, a smokehouse, a small frozen garden, and fences that needed work before spring. It had been a hard place even when Ruth Rowe was alive. Without her, it had become something less than a home. It was shelter, a place where meals were taken because bodies required them, a place where firewood was burned because winter would kill a man who made a speech about grief instead of splitting logs. Jonah opened the cabin door before Elias had set the brake. He had his father's dark hair and his mother's solemn eyes. He stood barefoot on the threshold, wrapped in an old quilt, staring at the stranger in the wagon. "Pa?" he asked. "This is Lian," Elias said. "She'll stay here for now." For now. The words came out before he knew he meant them. Lian heard them. He could tell. She climbed down slowly, still unsteady from the cold, and stood beside the wagon as if waiting for permission to breathe. Inside, the cabin smelled of ash, beans, lamp oil, and old sorrow. There were 3 cups on the shelf above the stove. 2 were used. The third, a blue enamel cup chipped white along the rim, sat upside down beneath Ruth's folded winter shawl. Elias had not lifted it in 2 years. Jonah never touched it. Lian's eyes paused there only a moment. Then she looked away. Elias showed her a narrow storage room behind the pantry. It held a cot, a cracked wash basin, 3 sacks of oats, and the kind of cold that lived in corners. "You can sleep here," he said. She nodded. He stood in the doorway, suddenly aware of how little there was to give. "I'll find you proper shoes when I can." "I can work without shoes." "I didn't ask if you could." That was the closest thing to kindness he managed. He shut the door and went back to the kitchen, where Jonah sat on the floor, arranging split kindling into rows like fence posts. The boy looked at him. "Did we get the cow?" Elias took off his hat. "No." Jonah looked toward the pantry room, then back at his father. "Is she better than a cow?" Elias almost told him not to ask foolish things. Instead, he hung his coat on the peg and said nothing. Before dawn, Lian found the work. She did not need instructions. Neglect has a language, and she read it quickly. The flour barrel was almost empty, but not spoiled. The beans were clean, but badly sorted. The water bucket had a skin of ice because no one banked the hearth properly. Jonah's shirts had cuffs worn through. Elias's coat had a split seam under the arm. The smokehouse door did not latch. The ash box was too full. By the time Elias came in from breaking ice in the trough, the fire was alive in a steadier way than he had seen all winter. A pot of thin barley porridge simmered on the stove. His torn work shirt lay repaired on the table, the stitches so small they looked like a dark thread had simply remembered where the cloth belonged. Jonah sat near the stove, holding a warm bowl with both hands. He was eating. Not much, but eating. Elias stopped just inside the door. Lian saw him notice and lowered her eyes, as if she had been caught stealing. "I used barley," she said. "Only a little salt. His stomach is not strong yet." Jonah swallowed. "It doesn't hurt," he said. That was all. But for Elias, it struck harder than praise. The days began to change by inches. Lian rose while the stars were still out. She boiled water before the house froze solid. She patched socks with thread pulled from torn flour sacks. She cut old trousers into strips for rugging. She turned bones into broth and stale bread into something Jonah would eat. She saved every clean scrap of fat. She wrapped the door cracks in cloth to keep the wind from entering like a thief. She did not brighten the house. That would have been too much. She only stopped it from falling apart. And somehow that made the rooms feel less accused. Jonah watched her at first, the way a wounded animal watches an open hand. From behind the wood box, from the corner of the table, from the doorway of his room, he watched her grind dried mint between her palms. He watched her clean soot from the lamp glass. He watched her separate good nails from bent nails and straighten the bent ones against the stoveplate. One afternoon he walked up to her while she was cutting strips of cloth for a quilt. He held out a tin horse, dented on one side, missing its tail. It was his favorite thing. Lian looked at the toy, then at him. She took it as if accepting a treaty between nations. "Strong horse," she said. Jonah shook his head. "Fast horse." For the first time, Lian smiled. Not much, just enough to show the house it was possible. After that, Jonah followed her everywhere. He carried kindling 2 sticks at a time. He asked why tea smelled like the creek bank. He asked if China had snow. He asked why she cut carrots so thin. He asked if her father had horses. Sometimes she answered, sometimes she only nodded. But she listened to every question like it deserved a place in the room. Elias saw it all from a distance. He saw his son lean against Lian's knee while she mended. He saw Lian save the soft middle of the bread for Jonah without making a show of it. He saw the way she never sat until everyone else had finished. He saw the flour sack wrappings on her feet turn gray with use. And he noticed the one thing she never did. She never touched the blue enamel cup on the shelf. A week after the auction, Elias rode back to Clearwater Crossing. When he returned, he set 3 things on the pantry cot without a word. A pair of women's boots, scuffed but solid. A gray wool dress, plain and warm. And a small packet of tea wrapped in brown paper. Lian stood in the doorway, staring at them. "I will work the debt," she said. "You already are." "I mean for these." Elias looked at the boots, then at her face. "They're not a debt." She did not move. He understood then that in her life, everything given had come with a hook buried in it. So he said the only thing that might make sense. "The boots are tools. You can't do winter work bleeding through rags." That she accepted. The next morning she wore them. They were too large, stuffed with wool at the toes, but she moved through the house differently. Not proudly, not freely, just less hurt. That evening, when Elias poured coffee, he poured 1 cup for himself, warmed milk for Jonah, and tea for Lian. He set her cup on the table, not on the sideboard, not near the stove, at the table. She looked at the cup for a long moment before sitting on the bench, her hands wrapped around the heat. The blue cup still sat upside down on the shelf. But there were now 3 people at supper. Felix Pritchard returned on a day when the sky looked like iron. He came in a fur-lined coat, riding a better horse than any honest broker needed, with snow crusted white along his boots. Elias opened the door and filled the frame. Pritchard smiled as if they were old friends. "Mr. Rowe, I was nearby on business and thought I should inquire after the girl's condition." "She has a name." "Of course, Lian." He said it poorly on purpose. "Has she been obedient?" Elias did not answer. Behind him, Lian stood in the kitchen with both hands still in the dishwater. At the sound of Pritchard's voice, the color left her face. Pritchard held up a folded account paper. "There is one matter I regret we must settle. The transfer fee you paid at auction was only the assumption price. The balance on her original debt remains active." Elias's eyes narrowed. "That was not said at the sale." "It is written in the terms." Pritchard tapped the paper. "Passage, board, clothing, medical expense, language instruction, advance wages. A considerable investment." He held the paper just far enough for Elias to see numbers, not close enough to read them well. But Lian saw more than he intended. She saw the crooked 7 in the board charge. She saw the blacker ink on the final line. She saw fine grains of drying sand still caught in the fold, though the date beside that charge claimed the entry was months old. Her stomach tightened. He had added to the debt after the auction. Again. Pritchard smiled toward the kitchen. "Contracts are delicate things, Mr. Rowe. A man who mishandles them may find he has purchased nothing." Elias took 1 step onto the porch. "You came to threaten me." "I came to educate you." "Then we're done." For a moment, Pritchard's smile dropped away, and the hard little man underneath showed through. Then it returned. "Storm coming," he said, looking past Elias toward the mountains. "Best keep your household in order." He rode off before sunset. By nightfall, the wind began. By midnight, the world was gone. The blizzard did not arrive like weather. It arrived like judgment. Snow buried the fence rails, sealed the barn door halfway shut, and pressed against the cabin windows until the glass looked blind. The horses screamed in the first hours. The hens went silent. The chimney moaned. The whole house shuddered as if the wind had hands. Elias spent the first day moving between cabin and barn with a rope tied around his waist. By the second day, the rope disappeared under drift every time he crossed the yard. Then Jonah began to cough. At first it was small, a dry scrape in his chest. By evening it had turned deep and wet. By morning he was burning with fever, his hair pasted to his forehead, his breath coming so fast Elias could hear the fear inside it. The doctor was 20 miles away. The road did not exist. Elias stood beside the bed, one hand braced against the wall, and felt the old terror rise up so violently He nearly staggered. He had watched fever take Ruth. He had watched it turn her voice thin. He had watched the bedclothes stop moving. He could mend fences. He could pull calves. He could shoot a wolf at 50 yards in snow, but he could not bargain with heat inside a child's blood. Lian moved, not quickly, not frantically, precisely. She brought water to a simmer, not a boil. She hung a blanket from the bedpost to hold steam near Jonah's face. She crushed dried yarrow, mint, and willow bark that she had gathered along the creek during her first week on the ranch. She mixed a spoon of honey into the bitter brew and fed it to Jonah drop by drop. Elias stared. "You had those?" "I collect what winter leaves behind." She wrung cloths in cool water and laid them across Jonah's neck. She rubbed his hands until the fingers loosened. She listened to his breathing with her ear near his mouth, counting under her breath in Cantonese. All through the night she worked. When Elias tried to take the basin from her, she shook her head. "You keep the fire steady, not high, steady." He obeyed. The word struck him later. Obeyed. No man in Clearwater Crossing would have imagined Elias Rowe taking orders in his own house. But when Lian said steady, he made the fire steady. When she said lift him, he lifted Jonah. When she said open the door for cold air only 1 inch, he did it. And sometime before dawn, as the storm tore at the roof and the lamp burned low, Jonah's breathing eased. Not all at once, not like a miracle, just one breath less ragged than the one before it. Then another, then another. By the third morning, the blizzard had blown itself empty. Sunlight came through the window and made the snow outside so bright it hurt to look at. Jonah slept. His fever had broken. Lian sat in the chair beside the bed, chin to chest, one hand still resting on the blanket over Jonah's ribs so she could feel him breathe. Elias stood in the doorway. He had paid less for her contract than a good cow would cost, and she had just saved the only thing in the world he could not replace. That evening, after Jonah woke and drank broth, Elias found Lian in the kitchen, washing the medicine cups with hands that trembled from exhaustion. "Who taught you?" he asked. She kept washing. "My father." "A doctor?" "In our village, people came to him before they could pay a doctor." She dried one cup, then another. "He knew plants, bones, fever, babies, numbers. He said if you cannot read a man's body, read his face. If you cannot read his face, read his accounts. A liar leaves marks somewhere." Elias waited. For the first time since the auction, Lian gave him pieces of herself that were not work. Her father had died in a famine year, after giving his own rice to patients. Her mother had crossed the ocean with Lian and her older brother because survival had become a smaller country than hope. Her mother died in a crowded lodging house near San Francisco. Her brother found work on a rail crew and was crushed in a rock slide before he had saved enough to free either of them from debt. Pritchard arrived after that. He offered translation, work, passage inland, a contract with numbers Lian could read but could not refuse. Every month the debt grew. Every meal became a charge. Every pair of shoes became a charge. Every blanket, every doctor visit, Every day she was too sick to work. Every letter she asked someone to write. He did not own me by law, she said. He owned the paper people were willing to believe. Elias sat slowly across from her. Why didn't you tell me? Her mouth tightened. Men who buy paper do not always want truth. That line stayed in the room longer than either of them did. 2 days later, while Jonah slept beside the stove, Lian took a threadbare bundle from beneath her cot. Inside was a narrow strip of oiled cloth, sewn shut at the edges. She opened it carefully. There were papers inside. Not many. A receipt stub from a boarding house, a rail ticket half torn at the corner, and a duplicate contract page, thin as onion skin, covered in cramped writing. Elias leaned closer. What is that? Pritchard made me copy his accounts, she said. When he was drunk, he gave me the wrong book. This page is from before he changed the numbers. Her finger touched the final line. Paid in full upon transfer. Elias looked up. Why keep it hidden? Because a paper can save you, she said, or get you killed. Pritchard came back with the law 3 mornings later. Deputy Harlan rode beside him, a broad man with tired eyes and frost in his beard. He did not look pleased to be there. Pritchard looked very pleased. He held up a folded writ with a county seal pressed into red wax. Elias Rowe, he called from the yard, you are harboring an absconded contracted servant and obstructing lawful recovery of debt property. Elias stepped onto the porch. His rifle stayed inside. He wanted it that way. Pritchard's eyes flicked toward the door, searching for Lian. The deputy has reviewed my papers. The woman is to be returned to me until her balance is satisfied. Deputy Harlan shifted in the saddle. Elias, I don't like it, but the document says the contract remained active. Unless you can show otherwise, I've got to bring her in for a hearing. Jonah appeared behind Elias, pale but standing. Lian came to the doorway a moment later with a small travel bundle in her hand. Elias saw it and felt something twist in him. She had packed before anyone asked her to leave. Maybe she had been packed since the day she arrived. Pritchard smiled. There now, the girl understands. Lian stepped past Elias, not behind him, past him. She stood on the porch in her gray wool dress and oversized boots, her face calm enough to frighten Elias. I will go to a hearing, she said to the deputy. But first, ask Mr. Pritchard which paper he wants believed. Pritchard's smile stiffened. This is nonsense. Lian looked at Harlan. His writ says the balance was still open after the auction. His own terms say expenses must be entered before transfer. Ask him for the account sheet he showed Mr. Rowe. Pritchard snapped. She cannot read business English well enough to— She reads fine, Elias said. The deputy looked at him, then at Lian. Show me what you've got. Pritchard hesitated one breath too long. That was enough. Harlan held out his hand. The account sheet. Red rose into Pritchard's face, but he produced it. The deputy unfolded the paper. Lian opened her oiled cloth and handed him the onion skin duplicate. Same contract number, she said. Same transfer date. Different final line. Harlan compared them. The yard went so still Elias could hear the leather creak in Pritchard's reins. On Pritchard's sheet, a charge had been added 3 days after the auction. Winter board, medical supervision, enforcement fee. On Lian's duplicate, the line did not exist. Below the balance was a notation in Pritchard's own hand. Paid in full upon transfer. Harlan read it twice. Then his jaw hardened. "Felix," he said, "you tried to use my badge to collect a debt you invented." Pritchard sputtered. "That paper was stolen." "Maybe." Harlan folded both sheets. "But yours is forged." He looked toward Lian. "Ma'am, you'll come to town only if you wish to file complaint. You won't be going with him." Pritchard's polished confidence cracked. For a second, Elias thought the man might reach for something. But Pritchard looked at the deputy, looked at Elias, looked at Lian, and found no easy target left. Harlan pointed toward the road. "Get off this ranch." Pritchard's horse turned hard enough to throw snow from its hooves. He rode out of the basin with his coat snapping behind him, smaller with every yard. When the sound faded, the porch remained silent. Jonah clung to the doorframe. Elias looked at Lian's hand. She was still holding the travel bundle. Of course she was. Freedom, for her, had always meant being ready to run before the next man changed his mind. She turned to Elias. "I brought danger here," she said. "No. I should go before more comes." Elias stepped down from the porch and stood in front of her, not blocking her like Pritchard had, but close enough that she had to see his face. "For 2 years," he said, "this house had fire and food and walls, but it wasn't alive." Lian's eyes lowered. Elias took the travel bundle gently from her hand. He set it on the porch rail. Then he opened the cabin door. Inside, Ruth's blue enamel cup still sat upside down on the shelf, the shawl folded beneath it. Elias crossed the room and lifted the cup. Dust marked the circle where it had waited. He rinsed it at the basin, dried it with the clean corner of a towel, and folded Ruth's shawl carefully into the chest beneath the window. Not as a man discarding the dead, as a man making room for the living. Then he set the blue cup at the table. The small sound of enamel touching wood made Jonah look up. "It's for Lian," the boy said. Elias nodded. Lian stood at the threshold. The cabin was not grand. The floorboards were warped. The stove smoked when the wind turned wrong. There were patched curtains, a cracked basin, and 3 bowls that did not match. But the fire was steady. The table was set for 3, and no paper in the world was holding the door shut. Elias looked at her. "Stay," he said. "Not because I paid, not because you owe. Stay because Jonah wants you here." His voice caught, rough with the part he had not said aloud in 2 years. "And because I do too." Lian looked at the blue chair, then at Jonah, then at the man who had ridden out for a cow and come home with a question he was still learning how to answer. Slowly she stepped inside. She sat at the table. For a moment nobody moved. Then Jonah placed the dented tin horse beside the blue cup. Lian touched it with 2 fingers. Outside the winter kept its teeth. Inside, the blue cup was no longer upside down.